Hello guys, welcome back to another video. I hope you're all well. Please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel because that would be greatly appreciated. 96.4% of all of you lot who are currently watching my videos are not subscribed. Seriously, what are you doing? Subscribe, please, now. That would be amazing. Anyway, today's video, the Ironman World Championships 2022, being held in St. George, Utah. It looks to be an awesome event with a stacked field on both the men's side and the women's side. And I think it's anybody's game and it's all up for grabs. Unfortunately, we have a few no-shows due to injury with Frodeno with the torn Achilles and Lucy Charles with the stress fracture in a hip, which is really unfortunate to see. However, just because these two top guns aren't competing doesn't mean that it's not all still to play for. On the men's side, you have the Norwegians, Gustav Iden and Kristian Blummenfelt, the Brits, Ali Brownlee and Joe Skipper, and then, of course, Sam Long and Lionel Sanders. And I think this course is really going to play into the hands of those uber bikers, the guys that can push power in excess of 370, 380 watts for long periods of time. Because on these hills, it's going to really limit the draft effect those weaker riders can get, which they often rely on actually on those flatter courses, and as Camworth would say, are just absolute pack rats. So yeah, I think this is going to be a real challenge for those bikers that are less able to push that power. And I think this is going to be a real advantage for Lionel Sanders, who's probably going to come out that swim with a pretty big deficit. But because there's not much of a draft effect, I think it's going to limit the distance that front pack can get ahead of him, and it's going to allow him to catch up relatively quickly. Now, this leads to my second question. Are we going to see guys running that one-by system on the bike and that single tooth chainring? Personally, I think it's a bad option on this course. There's a lot of climbing and it's really going to sort of grind those legs and take it out on the legs. And I think towards the end of the race, if you've only had that single option on the front, it's going to really make it hard, and it forces you to hold that top end power. Now, Matt Bottrell, one of the top leading bike fitters in the UK, was actually out in St. George last week with some of his coach riders, Tim O'Donnell, Matt Hansen and Justin Metzler, and he was saying that he was struggling to get up those hills at 350 watts in his lowest gear. So I think it is going to be spicy if you opt that one by. However, I would not be surprised if we see those top riders, the likes of Sam Long, Lionel Sanders, sticking with what they know and sticking with that. And they will have thought this through. They're not stupid. They want to race as sort of sensibly as they possibly can. So if they do stick with that, it's clearly been a choice they have actively made. Now on the women's side, I would say it's not as stacked as on the men's side. And that's just my opinion. You let me know down below what you guys think. I think Daniela Ryf is lacking form at the moment, and I don't think she's had a particularly good last two seasons. This is my opinion. Look, I think when you've been at the top of your game for the last decade, it sort of puts you up for a lot of criticism. And it means that a lot of people, when you lose a race, are going to go, have you still got it? I really hope she has. However, I think Lara Philipp is going to absolutely take everybody to the cleaners. And I think she is going to be the world champion after this race in St. George. Look, you've got the likes of Annie Haug, Heather Jackson. There's so many other women athletes that could, contend with that top spot, similarly to the men. But I just think Lara Philipp is going to take this home on her Canyon Speed Max. She's got everything right previously in the races, and it seems she's got into a real great rhythm of training. And I think this is going to absolutely pay dividends on this course. Now, one thing we've actually seen a lot of athletes do in this last year or so is do some high altitude training camps. I mean, the Norwegians are absolutely famous for this, where they go off to Sierra Nevada and they'll spend 6 weeks at a time up there working at that altitude, and it's worked sort of insanely well for them in the past. However, we've had other athletes who it's not really worked well for. For example, Joe Skipper a few years back went on high altitude training camp, came back, was flat, fatigued, tired, and didn't race well at all. So I think you sort of got to balance it right. You don't want to fatigue yourself too much, but you want to gain as much fitness as possible. The likes of Javier Gomez, Jan van Berkel have also been in Sierra Nevada, and these are older athletes. However, they are seasoned pros, and they have been there, done that. And I think an athlete like that may do really well on this course because it's going to test your endurance, it's going to test your legs, and I think it's going to test your experience. You need to know when to push and when not to push and when to hold back. And I think those younger guys, maybe like Kristian Blummenfelt, Gustav Iden, don't have that experience. In terms of the run course, so the run course isn't actually as hilly as people are making out. Now, the St. George 70.3 course is very hilly. Lots of steep inclines and declines, which takes it out massively on your calves and your quads. If this Ironman course was a replication of that, I think it would cause mass devastation in the pro field, because people who had overbiked would certainly not be able to run well on that course. However, it isn't as hilly as that, and it isn't as severe at all. I will go as far as saying it's relatively flat in the scheme of things. Now, there are some inclines and declines on this course, and I think this will pay into the sort of hands of those better runners, the likes of Matt Hansen, and I think he's a real underdog in this race. He goes under the radar the whole time. However, he is just a phenomenal runner, and he's always in that top mix. He's never usually at the top, but I think this could be a season where he does relatively well. I still don't think he's going to take that top spot. I think Lionel, the Norwegians, are going to really sort of dominate. Now, obviously, you've got the Brits, Joe Skipper, Ali Brownlee. They're all great athletes, and you can't count a two-time gold Olympic champion out of this fight. But I feel like something's not going right with him at the moment. He's previously just raced Oceanside and blew up, and everyone came past him at the last minute. So I don't think that bodes well going into a full Ironman. Although I could be massively wrong, and he might win by an absolute mile. And then I'll have to eat my own words and do another YouTube video on how wrong I was. But I'd be really interested to know what your guys' thoughts are on this race. Who you think's going to win, who you think's going to come out on top. I like this course. I think it's tough, I think it's challenging, and I think it opens the doors to a wide range of athletes. The older guys, the younger guys, the Uber bikers, the Uber runners. And so I think it makes it really fair. Now, I'm going to predict the men's and women's podiums. Forgive me if I'm wrong, this is only my opinion, and I am just a random YouTuber popping my thoughts out there. I'm going to go Lionel, Gustav, Christian on the men's field, although it could be any of those in any order. On the female side of things, I'm going to go Laura Philipp. I'm going to go Heather Jackson. And then Daniela Ryf in third. I just don't think she's going to hold on. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel because that would be greatly appreciated, and comment any of your thoughts down below of what you think is going to happen in St. George this year because it's going to be interesting.